أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلوات وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. Ashura and Muharram, the tragedy of Karbala, the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, is something that all of us, no matter how young or how old we may be, how educated we may be, will be able to gain something. And for each and every Muharram that we attend, for each lecture that we listen to, for each majlis that we participate in, for each tear that we shed, there will be a benefit. Either a benefit on a ilmi, scientific, educational side, or either on a spiritual, moral side, or either as far as the progress of the whole community and ummah. When we're talking about this particular stage that we're on in the journey of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, focusing mainly on the why and not the how, in that what is it that led to all of these things that occurred, where on this particular level of Imam Hussein alayhi salam having that confrontation with the small army of Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi. And of course, as I said, this was number 5, in that there was the one prior to that, which was the other things that we had mentioned, the movement from Medina to Mecca, from Mecca, and then the journey, and then this conversation or the confrontation, we can say, in what happened on this particular event. Now, of course, stage 5 is after that initial interaction that happened between Hur and Imam Hussein, and now Imam Hussein is settling down in the final place because of the letters that were received by Umar ibn Sa'd and also by Al-Hur from Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad under the command of Yazid, that you're not allowed to let Al-Hussein ibn Ali or any of his family members or companions to take any step further, neither to go towards Kufa, nor to return back to Hijaz, nor to go anywhere else. So they're pretty much cornered in this particular situation. Now, when we look at it in this particular way, and we know that because of Al-Hur realizing that the commander of Yazid's army Umar ibn Sa'd, and also Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, the governor of Kufa, they had malice intent, they had evil intent, and clearly they did not want to compromise, nor did they want to negotiate, and therefore Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, being the free person that he was in that sense, and as we mentioned, he did have that kind of independent way of thinking, even though, yes, he was a part of their army, but he was not indoctrinated, as we mentioned. And when he came to this realization, he changed sides. And of course, this is one of many examples that we're able to see that would be applicable to us. The people who were martyred along with Imam Hussein, not all of them were, for example, Muslim by birth. Not all of them were from Bani Hashim. Not all of them were ulama, scholars. Not all of them were educated people. Not all of them were righteous, pious people. No, there were people that were with Imam Hussein, that were killed with Imam Hussein, that will continuously be remembered until the end of time, along with the name of Imam Hussein. And some of them didn't even have a history in Islam. Some of them weren't even religious. Some of them were completely brainwashed on the other side. But yet all of a sudden, because of that essence, that noble, good, pious, righteous, pure essence that they had, they were successful enough. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them the tawfiq for them to become a part of Imam Hussein's army. Now, when we say these things, it's all because everything that happened that led to the massacre of Karbala is a lesson for us, a practical lesson for us. Karbala should not be looked at as something abstract, that that's something that we'll never be able to get to. No, as I said yesterday, most of what happened to Imam Hussein was not something exclusive in that particular sense, but no, it's applicable for anyone. If you are put in a situation, بين السلة والذلة, what are you going to do? If you are put in a predicament, whether you stay quiet in the face of a tyrannical ruler, or you face the death penalty, for example, what are you going to do? If you're in a particular situation where you need to demand the haqq and huquq of those who are around you, what are you going to do? And that's why we can see that even among us Muslims, we can see people who are absolutely silent. There are many examples for this, but I don't want to go into that because, it might kind of like take us off what it is that I'm trying to explain here. But activism is very important, to be proactive, to be engaged, to be involved. The Azaa and the mourning for Imam Hussein will only have value if I live the legacy of Imam Hussein. And we can see that, alhamdulillah, there are many, many examples for this, of people who used the activist side of the revolution of Imam Hussein and initiated that in their practical lives. We see many of our esteemed Maraji' Taqleed from the time of the British invasion of Iraq, where they were actively involved, where they made sure that, these imperialist, colonialist superpowers were not in any way going to remove the entity of Islam from the Islamic society. And of course, that also gives us that understanding that when we're dealing with something like Imam Hussein and Ashura, it's something that we're going to be implementing, we're going to be practicing it in our lives. One example is Hur. You can use many other examples as far as that diversity that was in Imam Hussein's army. You had elderly men, you had infant children, you had males, you had females, you had very righteous religious people, you had people who had no history in religion whatsoever. You had people who were very much aligned with Ahlul Bayt. You had people who were hostile to Ahlul Bayt. But all of these things brought them together and they became who they were. And that's why, it's very, very sad when we hear certain people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has really removed any tawfiq from these people, and they don't have no idea whatsoever who the grandson of the Holy Prophet was. And as I said again, in repeating something that I mentioned last night, even when it comes to non-Shia, even when it comes to certain munsif, fair, Sunni ulama who have praised Imam Hussein in the best of ways, who have condemned Bani Umayyah and Yazid in the worst of ways and things like that. Now, creating this scenario in our minds, we've got Imam Hussein and his small group. Wasn't yet an army, because that wasn't the intention that Imam Hussein had. Imam Hussein left Mecca not as a military movement. Imam Hussein's movement was not a military movement. And that answers the question as to why it is that Imam Hussein left with women and with children and with elderly people. It wasn't a military movement. So he left from Mecca al-Mukarramah, traveling towards Kufa. He's stopped on the way by the little army, 1,000 strong army of Al-Hur, who was asked to intercept Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein engages in a conversation or a talk with Al-Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, the commander of that small army, and the decision is made that yes, monitor Imam Hussein and see where he goes and see what's going to happen. So Imam Hussein is traveling towards Kufa, but of course he is prevented from getting to Kufa. He stops in Karbala. Then there is the negotiation. Okay, allow me to return. No, you can't. Allow me to carry on to Kufa. No, you can't. Allow me to go somewhere else, a third place. No, you can't. And by the way, it was during this time, during this journey to Karbala, just before arriving in Karbala, that Imam Hussein receives the news of the martyrdom of his delegates, his Safir, Muslim ibn Aqil, alayhi salam, along with Hani ibn Urwa, alayhi salam. And of course, this upset Imam Hussein very much. Imam Hussein was devastated by the news of his cousin Muslim alayhi salam dying, being martyred. But of course, the mission had to continue. Imam Hussein was not going to allow this become an obstacle for him. And the children of Muslim ibn Aqil alayhi salam, who were with Imam Hussein, they said, we want to seek vengeance and we want to revenge the killing of our father. Imam Hussein was very, very straightforward and very frank with all of those of his companions around him. He didn't conceal the information. He didn't say, well, if I tell them about the betrayal of Ahlul Kufa, it's going to break the morale of the people who are with me, and a lot of people are going to leave me. No, that's not what Imam Hussein did. That wasn't the outlook that Imam Hussein had. Imam Hussein wanted, in reality, he wanted to make sure that anyone who was with him was there willfully, with the absolute purest of intention, did not have one speck of a doubt or hesitation in their presence. And that's why on numerous occasions Imam Hussein said to those who were around him, he said, you are all absolutely free to leave whenever you want to. Use the darkness of the night to leave if you want to. No one will know. No one will condemn you. No one will criticize you. I myself free you of any even Shari'i responsibility. And what was the answer that he got from not one, not two, but numerous companions and Sahaba? One would say, if I was to be cut up and killed and burnt and brought back to life, and that happened to me 70 times, I would not leave you. Another one said 1,000 times, and I would not leave you. So that was the kind of, perseverance that the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam had. And that's why he said, I have never seen companions more loyal than my companions. And that's a great statement, isn't it? That's a very big statement. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. That's a great statement. And so, of course, it's all about freedom. It's all about being hur in your life. And that's why Imam Hussein said to Al-Hurr ibn Yazid, you are hur as your mother has named you. Why, as A'imatu Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam, in many places they say, why do you want to be the slave of somebody else? And God has made you a free man. Why do you need to subjugate yourself to somebody else? And of course, you have that ability to be free. Overall, when we see this fight against oppression and things like that, this is, of course, comes along with the package of what it is that is happening. As I said, Imam Hussein was very straightforward, very frank. He knew that these people who were with him were the purest of people, with the most purest of intention. He tested them again and again and again, even when he announced that, by the way, Muslim was killed. The people of Kufa have betrayed. They've gone against their what they committed to. People didn't say, oh, let's leave. Yes, historians do say that there were some that left. One example is in the case of someone by the name of Dahak. And Al-Dahak, of course, but the interesting story with Al-Dahak, and his full name is Al-Dahak ibn Abdullah al-Mashriqi al-Hamadani, was that he had a very, very heavy loan. And he said to Imam Hussein, look, I'll accompany you on the one condition that if I see that the situation is going to change, then you need to allow me to leave. Imam Hussein said, absolutely, that's absolutely fine. And he accompanied Imam Hussein. When he saw that the situation was really tense, he said to him, do you allow me to leave? Imam Hussein gave him the permission to leave. Of course, he was deprived from the tawfiq of being a shaheed, of martyrdom. And of course, martyrdom itself does need the highest level of tawfiq. But, this would be a positive example of, that commitment, not up to that level. And I don't want to, be a burden on my family and leave behind a big loan, be in debt and all these other things that happened. And so when Imam Hussein was saying these things, clearly the motive behind all of this was to make sure that everyone is well aware of what is going to happen. Furthermore, when the circumstance changed, Imam Hussein, when he left Mecca, this is a very important point, by the way, when Imam Hussein left Mecca, he was under the realization, under the impression that the people of Kufa were going to stand by him and help him with this uprising against the tyranny of Yazid. Now, when he found out that Muslim ibn Aqil was betrayed and also killed along with Hani, the circumstance has changed. Things have changed now. The situation is different. So, why did Imam Hussein continue on? Knowing that the circumstances have changed. This is, of course, a question that we can put forward. The answer to this question is that Imam Hussein was needed to do, after knowing that the circumstances have changed and the Kufans went against what it is that they said, that there's going to be two scenarios here. Scenario number one is that Imam Hussein abandons what he's doing and goes back to Hijaz. Scenario number two, which basically means he's going to withdraw. Scenario number two is that he's going to continue on to Kufa. As I just said, children of Muslim ibn Aqil said, we want to, revenge the killing of our father. Other Sahaba said, it's probably a good idea for us to go somewhere else. Other Sahaba said, they treated Muslim alayhi salam in that particular way, but they might treat you differently because you are the grandson of the Holy Prophet. And we know the sad event that befell upon Muslim. It really was appalling what happened to him. He started off his salah with the masjid in Kufa absolutely full, even people outside. And by the time he finished his salah, by the time he finished his prayer, there was nobody left. Nobody left. And that's why, when we look at the betrayal, and when we look at how hurtful that betrayal was, and how Muslim alayhi salam was left all alone to fend for himself, it really was something very, very difficult. So some of them said, if you do carry on and go to Kufa, the situation is going to be different, and they might treat you differently, seeing that you are the grandson of the Holy Prophet. Now, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, of course, Imam Hussein, as we said last night, and we said this the night before, everything was based on his wazifa, his duty, his taklif, his obligation. It wasn't something of, like me and you choosing either this way or that way, or what other scenarios there are. No, this is a taklif ilahi, a divine duty that the Imam has as the leader, as the legitimate leader of the Muslim Ummah. He was responsible to make sure that the direction of Islam was going to go down the right way. Maybe if it was someone else like you and I, probably we might become hesitant, probably we might change our opinion or our mind or things like that. But the Imam alayhim salam, our Imams, they had to follow along with their duty. Mu'jiza, all of our Imam alayhim salam were able to conduct miracles. All of them were able to, because of their access to wilaya takwiniya, were able to do something that would, remove them from the situation that they were in. But that's against the nature of how any of our ma'sumeen, peace be upon them, were. None of our ma'sumeen in any way misused, we have to call it misused that power, that God-given power that they had, for whatever reason it may be. Even Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, even though he had ilmul ghaib that was given to him by God, right? But he didn't use that in the outer appearance of his conduct. He always treated and dealt with things in the normal scenario, in the normal way. And so did all of our other Imams as well. Because that was their duty for them to carry on in the natural means of how the process of life needs to be. And therefore, even though, there could be that option of going here or going there or things like that, but Imam Hussein was not 100% certain that the people of Kufa were going to treat him and his family members the exact same way as they treated Muslim. And therefore, with that ihtimal there, with that probability still being there, he had to make sure that he exerted all efforts and made sure that any of these scenarios that could exist was used. And this is exactly why, when it came to the decision of carrying on and continuing, this is what happened. Where Imam Hussein was following his taklif, he understood that it's only a possibility of him being betrayed as well when he does get to Kufa, and also a possibility of him of nothing happening to him as well. And therefore, Imam Hussein went in line and according to his taklif and his duty. Now, of course, we also know that when the situation or the circumstance changed again, Imam Hussein had that dialogue. Okay, allow me to go here. No, allow me to go there. No, allow me to carry on to Kufa. No. So Imam Hussein, of course, fulfilling all that was needed from him, he finally ended up in the land of Karbala. Now, of course, we know that with the duty that Imam Hussein had, he realized, of course, that with the goal that he wanted, and what was the goal? The goal was to stop the tyranny. The goal was to bring back the Islam of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Amir al-Mu'mineen. The goal was to awaken the Muslim Ummah from their deep sleep, from their slumber. The goal was to give people some level of hope in corruption no longer being a systematic part of the Muslim Ummah at that time. Muawiyah, and Bani Umayyah, they weren't stopping people from praying. They were building masajid, they were distributing Qur'ans, there were huffaz of Qur'ans, they were encouraging people to go to do Hajj. They were doing all of these things. But the problem was the presence of social Islam in the society. That's a really, really important topic on its own. So the overall goal that Imam Hussein had was to bring back Islam, was to take that power from these evil people who were massacring innocent individuals, innocent people, people who were close to the Holy Prophet, people who were Sahaba. Imam Hussein wanted to make sure that people started to demand justice and reject tyranny, bringing back the true Islam of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if it meant that while doing this, he's going to die and he will be killed, then let it be. And this is why there's this famous statement that is said. It wasn't something that Imam Hussein alayhi salam himself said, but it said that if the deen of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa is never going to continue on or carry on in its right path, then without me being killed, then swords come and take me. In lam yastaqim dinu Muhammad illa biqatli faya suyuf khudini. if the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is never going to continue on unless I am killed, then swords, come and take me. So that's what we mean by religious activism, by being aware of your surroundings, by realizing that duty is always going to be very, very important. We need to fulfill our duty, our moral duty, our social duty, our religious duty at any cost. We shouldn't be compromising because of this situation or that situation. It's always going to be something mandated for all of us. You know that there is that famous hadith from Ahlul Bayt that says that the best of things that a person can do is issue a truthful statement in the face of a tyrannical ruler. Inshallah, we'll continue on with the further stages after stage number 5 in our talk tonight. Hopefully, my brothers and sisters are participating online, of course, and through the different means that we have in majalis of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, in shedding tears for Imam Hussein, in remembering the tragedy of Karbala. Hopefully, we will be able to increase in our level of ma'rifah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam once all of this is finished. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين.